So welcome back to my channel, everyone. It's Abbie again. I know it's been a minute since I've been on my channel, but I'm back and I'm better. As you can see today, we're doing a live stream and I'm actually joined by my dear big sis. This is my big sis, Trudy. I'm going to leave it to her to introduce herself because I think she knows her accolades better than anyone. But yeah, introduce yourself. Let us know who you are, where we can find you and what you do.
Okay, thanks, Abbie. So as Abbie has said, many refer to me as Trudy. My full name is Gertrude. I have worked in the HR industry for the last 8 years. I started off as a HR administrator and did a lot within the campus recruitment side. Campus recruitment being undergrad and graduate recruitment. And I currently work in the health sector as a HR project manager.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So today I thought I'd come on here with a slightly different topic. As we all know, there's been so much going on recently in the news and a lot of things coming up on social media as well. We wanted to talk about racism in general, but specifically in the workplace, as you can see by the title on this video. Trudy, you can also agree that the past couple of weeks, especially on social media, it's been very interesting, very overwhelming as well, but also really insightful. Personally, it's been exhausting for me because I've realized there's so much more that we need to do to still tackle racial injustice. So with everything that's been going on, I've used this time to kind of just reflect on my own life and just kind of reflect on how I've experienced racism personally. So I think it would be a good idea to kind of share our personal experiences of racism before diving into racism in the workplace. So I'll leave you to get started.
In regards to racism, I have experienced it in many different aspects. Growing up, I think every parent does this. I was told by my parents that you have a different skin color, and because of your skin color you might be treated differently. So make sure that whatever that you do 150% of it. So in my mind it's always been work hard. If I work hard, I'll get what I want to do. It's never been lazy, because you're never going to get whatever you want to get. That's what I was told anyway. So growing up, that was the thing that I had in mind. I never sold myself short. If I know this is what I wanted to go with, this is what I was going to do. Like I'm kind of like a rebellious individual by heart, so anything that someone would say to me, no, you can't do, I would always do it. So going back a little bit into my childhood, I actually was born in Holland. I was raised and did most of my education there. I moved to the UK when I was about 15. So when I came to the UK, I had to now look for schools. At 15, normally you would be in year 11. But my mom opted for me to go into year 10. So it was hard getting admission. And I remember the first ever head teacher that I met. I'm not going to say the school, but the headmaster said to me that, oh, your English is very bad. So there's no need for me to come to year 10. I'm going to fail my GCSEs anyway. So it's just best for me to stay at home and then just wait till I hit 16 and then start college. My mom, obviously, knowing, she already saw the signs of what he meant by what he said. So my mom just switched, and I didn't understand why she switched. So after she switched, I was like, oh, mom, but what he said made sense, because obviously my native tongue is Dutch. Right. So I get that I'm not going to be speaking English the way the British do. And I might not understand it the way, the native British does, or those that have been born here. So to me, I didn't understand why my mom got so annoyed. But afterwards, my mom was like, the reason why he said what he said was because he didn't feel like you will fit in the school perspective of students, or the prestige that they have created. I wouldn't fit in, and that's why he said what he said. So that took me aback. Like, I was like, oh wow, that's what he meant. So after that, we went to other schools, and luckily there was another school that I went to. Same, white headmaster, but he was so different. His whole demeanor and everything with welcoming us was so different. It wasn't even like he was looking down on us or anything. He was like, you know what, I'm here. This school is here to help you, improve your English, everything. It was so different. So from going to a school that was, and I actually afterwards I found out that that school was predominantly white, so it made sense. It was predominantly white. They don't really have people of my color there. And then where I went to after, they did, and that's why they were so accommodating. So that's one that has stayed with me since for life. Like, I now understand, you know, how you can just look at someone's complexion and then judge the person that they are not good enough.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There's so many aspects of it that I can obviously relate to being Black as well. Again, just like you, my parents always kind of instilled into me the fact that I would have to work 150% harder. I didn't even realize that it was because of my skin color until later on in life. That's when I realized why they were instilling all these values in me. So for me personally, I've lived in a predominantly white area all of my life. And even all the schools that I attended were therefore mainly white. And in secondary school, I was the only Black girl in my form group. And in fact, in my whole year group, there was probably maximum 6 Black girls in my whole year group at most. But I would say I was kind of lucky because of the area that I was raised in. I was lucky in the sense that I think my skin color was embraced despite always being part of the minority. So I did feel comfortable in those environments, and I never actually experienced anyone being openly or directly acting racist towards me in school or throughout my teenage years. However, just because I didn't experience any direct or open racism, it doesn't mean that I wasn't affected by it at all. I would say that the main type of racism that I've experienced was mainly covert racism. So it was basically quite concealed, not open, really subtle type of racism. And I think because of that, a lot of people actually don't think racism or racial discrimination happens in the UK, but it's pervasive. Even though it's subtle, it still happens, even in the workplace. So just because it's not obvious doesn't mean that it's not happening. And even at times I've seen when I've gone for interviews, which I thought I've done really well in, but then I'll find myself having to chase them up just to get feedback. And then I'll be told, you just weren't a good fit for the company. So meanwhile, I've gone for the assessment day, I've done so many tests, and the only feedback that you can give me is you just weren't a good fit. So there was no other reasoning given to me. But then when I reflect upon the interview or the assessment centre that I did, I've now realised I was actually the only Black person there. When they took me on a tour for the office, I didn't see no one that looked like me. And for me, being young and naive, because I was already used to being in rooms with a majority white people, even when I went into these offices and I saw all these white people, I thought, I could still be here, or I could see myself still working here. And you wouldn't even think that your race would be an issue. It's such a shame because for a lot of companies, they already have an idea of who's going to fit in here and who's not. They've got their own internal standards, and they've got their idea of cultural fit, and they want to make sure that no one kind of messes that up. When they make their cultural fit, they actually use it to kind of exclude certain types of people from their workplace. It's such a shame because most of these ideas of cultural fit does stem from unconscious bias, and unconscious bias then leads to discrimination, and that then leads to excluding certain types of people from the workplace. So I'm not sure about yourself, like, have you ever experienced those type of covert, subtle racism yourself?
Funny enough, you say that makes me laugh, because one thing I will say is that it might be, God's way of, giving me the opportunity, or however you want to say it. But with me, my surname is not African, or you wouldn't say it's Black in any way. So any application that I've put in, not all applications, but most of the applications I've put in, I've always had that first interview, second interview. But the funny part is that when you actually go into that first interview, their body language changes. Their body language changes, okay? Because they did not expect someone with a Dutch surname like that, the way my name is written, from my first name to my last name, how it's written, to be a black girl, you know, a real black girl. So I get that a lot. Their body language changes. But I mean, the first couple of times that happened, I didn't understand it. But then afterwards, I started to understand that, you know what, I need to embrace that. So once they are shocked like that, when they do get shocked, I now need to make sure that that wow factor becomes a positive wow factor.
Definitely.
Okay. So whatever then I'm going to express, or whatever then I'm going to explain, I need to explain it to 200% so that they understand that, you know, it's not just my name, it's not my color. I can do the work that I have applied for.
Yeah.
So that is the one thing. And as I said, as a HR professional, I know that in organizations we actually train our leaders, our supervisors, our line managers to leave their judgment at the door.
Yeah.
So whoever comes through, whoever you're going to interview, take them as they come. Don't look at their race, the way their hair looks, their tattoos, whatever. We need to look past that and then actually listen to what the person is saying. So that is something that as a HR group, or as a HR in a whole, we ensure, or we try to make sure that whoever interviews whoever does not judge people by what they see.
Definitely.
So that's one thing. Another thing is, like you said, you get the racism. You will have that weird comments once in a while. I've had the comments countless of times. As I said, because of my name, I've almost always been the only black person within the department.
Wow.
Many a times. It now gives me the opportunity to, you know, educate them on things that they don't know. But yeah, racism is real, and in workplace it's very, very, very real. Like comments that I've received before is, "Oh, you're quite quiet for a black girl."
Oh my
God, like,
really?
Sorry? I was like, so what was I meant to be?
Wow.
And you know, because of how I said sorry, then it resonates.
Yeah.
Then it resonates that, oh, maybe I said something wrong. What do you mean by what you said? And they're like, oh no, I've worked with. Then they explain themselves. No, I worked with a few, you know, Africans. Then they would say, are you African actually? And I'm like, yeah, I've worked with with a few Africans. And you know, they're quite loud, they're quite jolly, but you're quite quiet. And I'm like, yeah. So it's inevitable.
I wanted to pick up on one thing that you said about your name, because I actually have read a couple articles about this. So I have a very Ghanaian name. So if you see my name on a piece of paper, you know that I'm not going to be a white person. So I was kind of reading some articles earlier this week, and I found that people from BAME backgrounds have to make 60% more job applications than our white counterparts in order to receive positive job responses. And as well as that, anglicizing your name on job applications improves a job seeker's prospects, prompting recent government trials of anonymous job applications. So for anyone who doesn't know, if we say that someone is anglicizing their name, it means that they're trying to make their name sound more English. And a lot of people, I remember when I was reading the article, a Muslim girl, she basically changed her name to a more English name, and she found she got so many more positive job responses just by changing her name. So what are your thoughts about this? And do you think that having anonymous job applications will actually help people from, you know, Black, Asian, or minority ethnic backgrounds?
I'm not gonna lie. It does happen. Your name does say a lot. I'm not gonna lie. It really does. Because at the end of the day, on your CV, that's the first thing I see, or that's the first thing any recruiter will see. And after your name, now we're going to be looking at your education background and then your work experience. So yeah, I would definitely be for anonymous CVs or anonymous job applications, and it would help in regards to increasing BAME rates or BAME interview rates, I would say. So yeah, definitely, I think definitely that's something that 100%.
Fair enough. When it comes to covert racism, do you think that when people experience this, they are actually likely to raise a complaint with their HR department?
Honestly, I think we are resistant. A lot of us are resistant. Let me say it like that. A lot of us are resistant to complain because they feel that now HR or the organization is going to see them as problem makers or complainers. But I feel like, first of all, if you feel that you have been discriminated against, you have to say something. You not saying something means that you're facilitating it, and somebody else is gonna reap what you're sowing. You know what I mean? Somebody else is gonna get the result of what you haven't reported. So it is very important to have a discussion. If you feel the person has been, you can have that open discussion with the individual. Just say, I felt like what you said this day didn't sit well with me. It might be best for you not to say that again. And then if that goes on, you can then level it up to HR or whoever else. If you feel like you can't have that conversation with that individual, then definitely go to HR and have that conversation with them. I mean, as you would know, HR is there to help the employees. HR is there to give you advice. So if there is anything, I feel like you should make that first step and discuss it further.
Definitely. One thing for me that I've experienced is that it's quite annoying because when it comes to all these covert racism or subtle remarks, a lot of the time you can't even prove or explain it yourself why it's annoying, why it's offended you. But it's only those who have actually experienced structural racism regularly who actually understand the effects of it, what they understand what it looks like, and they understand the true impact of it on them, because it really can have a ripple effect. It can affect your mood, your concentration levels at work, your sense of belonging in the workplace, your sense of value, and all those things. And it's funny because when you go to uni, and you're equipping yourself for the workplace and trying to secure your graduate job, you're never made aware of all the potential issues you can face at work as a result of your racial or religious differences. And you're not ever really taught in life how to handle these issues. You literally learn about it on the job. And for me personally, when I saw another person report a racial issue in the workplace, and it was kind of just brushed under the carpet, you realize soon enough that a lot of these people in leadership positions, even the HR professionals, they don't even understand how to address these issues. And so it's almost as if we almost have to convince the people to make them understand the seriousness of what's happened, because even if the evidence is so clear, like even if you have messages or emails showing the discrimination, a lot of people don't understand the weight of the issue unless multiple people have experienced the same thing. It's just, I think that's why it's so important to have a diverse workforce, especially up at leadership levels, because that means that they can really understand everything that's going on down below them, and understand how to deal with these issues. So could you kind of share with us briefly the best way to deal with a complaint?
From a leadership position, I would say that you take on board what the individual is saying. And as a HR professional, we always go by evidence-based. So what happened? When did it happen? How was it said? How did it make you feel? Stuff like that, so that we can make a note of that and we can evaluate all that information that you've given us. You're right. We do go through training, but there's still a lot of training that can be done. Like you were saying as well, in regards to BAME's ratio against the Caucasian in the workplace, you notice that there is not a lot of our color up in the leadership. So everything that we do is like we are now teaching them. We're now teaching them how to deal with the situation. So like I said before, that if you do not complain, they will not know how to resolve it if somebody else goes through the same issue. Even though they have had training, paper training is not the same as the actual event happening, it's not the same. You know, what you put on paper is not the same as what actually happens when it does. So it's important that when you do complain, you have all your facts ready. So one thing that I do when I feel like, it's happened or it's happening, somebody's being racially abusive, I'll be writing it down. This is what he said. This is how they said it. This is their body language towards what they said. You know, so that I can give them the understanding of why what the person said is so offensive. Unfortunately, they are not in our skin, so they won't understand.
Exactly.
And unless we educate them, they would never understand. So it is our duties to make sure that we report, and then they can find a solution to deal with it.
Definitely. So I read that barriers to career progression faced by employees from a Black background is becoming more prevalent. They had experienced discrimination, and they had felt that they needed to change aspects of their behavior to fit into the workplace. So what are your thoughts on this? And from these articles, do you think it's fair to say that racism is so far ingrained into the employment system?
I think there is a lot happening within organizations. I can say one thing. I've worked in so many different organizations, and every organization that I have worked in has been notified that diversity is needed. Okay, it's been identified that diversity is needed. Some of them are very good at making sure that they are recruiting BAME leadership, and some of them aren't because of their culture, and then because of their root, okay, the root of the actual organization. And there was one particular organization that I worked for. It was predominantly white and obviously predominantly male. So it was hard. I noticed it was hard for them to recruit diversity within their workforce because they didn't actually know how to approach it. So like I said, there's a lot of training that's out there at the moment that's helping organizations in regards to bringing in more diversity into their workforce. Now, they can bring in the diversity, but then when it comes to actually grooming them to get to a higher position is then another stumbling block that they hit. So I agree with your article that you've read. It really depends on the organization. I would say it really depends on the organization. There's been another organization that it was very diverse. When I say very diverse, okay? And it was easy because they were offering mentorship. They were offering what do we call it? Diversity recruitment days. They were offering a lot of different things to bring in the diversity. And with that organization, you could see diversity on the top as well. So it wasn't a problem because they have made it their priority. Okay. And even when they were advertising new products or marketing new services, they will use diversity within their campaigns to show that yes, they are friendly, they are welcoming, they are diverse. So it really depends on the organization, like I said, and it really depends on if the leadership is willing to learn and is willing to embrace diversity. So yeah, yes and no. Some organizations are doing it really well, and you can see the diversity within their leadership chain, and some are not doing so well, and they just need that help. I always say though that I feel that we are resistant to go into those kind of organizations and make those changes. We are very resistant because we know that we're going to work harder. We're going to work 200 times harder to, get the diversity through. So you'd rather go to the organization, like I said, like the one that I've said that is really diverse. We would like to go in there because we know there won't be as much resistance when we want that promotion, when we want to step up, when we want to move into different departments. So I think we need to be willing as well to go into those organizations that aren't as diverse and then become the change, because the change just starts with one person. So that's what I would say.
Fair enough. And personally, I'm really passionate about education because I feel like when you've got, your education, you've got your degree, these are things that nobody can take away from you.
Yeah.
Where we live, they do respect skills, they do respect education. And it's really a shame because some companies, the way they hire people is they hire people through their network. their network usually represents their own race. It reflects the race and the gender and the ethnicity of the people, which means, again, we are got the lower hand. But it's weird to see that still in this day and age, this is happening, because having a diverse workplace leads to more diverse perspectives, and it makes your business more successful. So you have to have a diverse workforce, and if you want to stay competitive, there are clear economic benefits linked to diversity in the workplace.
I agree, but it's also because they are set in their ways. You know, there's a lot of, we need to be really honest. Some people just don't want to branch out. They just want to stick with what they know. And because they feel like when change comes, it's terrifying.
Right.
And it also means that you will have to change the way you do your things need to change. A lot of people don't like that. A lot of organizations don't like that, so that's why it is what it is. So yeah, I agree, I totally do agree. And as I said, there is this notion as well, there's this perspective that, or perception that certain industries need diversity and certain don't need diversity. You have that as well. So yeah, it's a lot of feelings that maybe an individual or an organization doesn't want to feel and doesn't want to take that risk for.
But you see, with all of that, it's so unsettling, because even that leads me to kind of what we've been seeing today on social media, with the whole Black Lives Matter movement. This is why people were so mad that companies were posting black squares, and just, you know, moving on with the rest of their life. Like, you must be kidding if you think posting a black square to stand in solidarity with us is enough to make a difference. And I think, I'm not sure if you saw that recently, Aina, she came to step on everyone's neck. You've been singing Black Lives Matter, you've been posting the square, you've been doing all these nice songs in your captions. But if you really stand for us, show up. And, you know, because how can you claim that you believe that Black Lives Matter when you have different rates of pay for black people than you do white people? Less than 10% of your workforce is black. And on top of that, for all these fashion companies, you have no black models because you prefer to tan your white models in order to make them look racially ambiguous, instead of having to pay, you know, actual black models to do the job for you. So in every aspect of your business, including your workforce, you have just completely ignored black people. And now you're using the Black Lives Matter as kind of a marketing strategy. And a lot of people will say, you know, why does it matter? And I think obviously you should employ people who are actually able to do the jobs that you're advertising for. And it's not even just about black people either, because it's just about diversity and inclusion. And I just think if you don't have diversity in your workforce, it kind of has a ripple effect on everything below. Because this is one of the reasons why a lot of these, for example, makeup brands, still to this day, they don't even stock makeup shades for black women or darker women. And that's, for me, I think personally, from what I've seen, is because right at the top, the people who make the decisions, there's not even black people there. How can you expect to understand the needs of all of your customers? You know, and because they don't understand us, and they're not even trying to understand us, immediately they leave us out. You know, so it's not even just about how the leadership team treat their employees, but it's also about how the leadership employ the right people who can then understand the needs of their customers and ensure that their goods and services are diverse enough to meet the needs of all their customers. And linking onto that, I want to actually ask you about the pay gaps that are still taking place between different races, also like the lack of promotions or the lack of career progression in the workplace. Do you think that maybe people are kind of scared to even ask for maybe the pay rise that they know they deserve because of their race?
Yes, I would say yes. I was just going to say a lot of the pay gaps in regards to races, I think it is in regards to lack of knowledge and also fear. Lack of knowledge in the sense of we don't do the research. We just know what is out there or what somebody has told us, and then we act upon it. Oh, actually, then I am below the salary gap, so then I should be getting it. But have you actually done the research? And once you have done the research, how do you approach that conversation? Or do you even approach the conversation? Because a lot of people will make comments about it, but they would actually not make, as I said, take that step forward to actually find a solution or get a solution to their problem. They will talk about it, but they won't actually do anything about it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you do get to that point where you know your salary is lower than the next person, and the next person is Caucasian, or the next person is whatever they are, you need to have that conversation. You need to be bold enough to say, actually, so-and-so gets so-and-so a year, and I do the same work, or I do more, and I have this skills, and I have this degree, and I should be getting so-and-so. You should be able to put your case forward.
Right.
That's why, that's why I always say. And also, when you do get the opportunity to negotiate your salary, every organization already has their bottom band and top band.
Yeah.
So you need to be the one to come and say, I have this skills, I have this experience, I know how to do this. I know if you take me on, or if you put me in this position, I can reform or regenerate so-and-so sales. You need to sell yourself. And I feel that, unfortunately, our race, our culture, stops us from doing that. I must be honest with you. I feel like we have not been taught how to sell ourselves. We have not been taught how to brag about ourselves. We don't know how to do that. And that is stopping us from getting what we need. And so I always say to the youth I know, to people that I know, you need to tell people what you can do. You have to blow your own trumpet. You have to do it. You need to be confident in yourself and tell others that this is what I can do. That you don't believe that I can do it. That is your problem. I can do it. And this is what, this is my proof that I can do it. We need to sell ourselves. We need to believe in ourselves. We need to big up ourselves. We should not wait for the next person to do that. And we currently are doing that. We are waiting for people to give us the opportunity. We are not proactive. Yeah, that's it. We are not proactive. We are very reactive. We need to become proactive.
I think that's so true. And I'm laughing because I would say, for me personally, the most daunting experience I have ever faced at work was asking for a pay rise. I was so scared. I was so nervous. I didn't know how to approach it. And it's the thing where I knew that I deserved one, because I put the work in, I'd done the exam to show that I now have these skills, but I just didn't know how to ask for one. And although, I didn't show them that I was nervous, I was very scared that I was going to be shut down. Unfortunately, there was no one who had the same role as me at the time, or no one doing the same thing that I did. So I couldn't even benchmark against their salary to know what I deserved. So I then had to go ahead and do my own market research just to ensure that I didn't get the shorter end of the stick. So what do you think is the best way to prepare ourselves to kind of help us know how to approach these conversations?
To be honest, I would say, if you find yourself in this situation, do some research in regards to LinkedIn. You can actually build a lot of network. There's a lot of communities and groups out there that can support you, like Black Professional Group. There's so many groups that, you could actually join and then ask these questions. You're not alone. There's a lot of people that are going through it. There's a lot of people that have more experience than you, especially us that we are quite young. There are more experienced workers that have actually gone through it and will have so many good advice to give to us. I would definitely say, for me, I benchmark a lot with CIPD because that's what's linked to HR. But I would look in different organizations. I would look on website, and even overseas, because some people don't actually even look overseas. They just look within the UK. It's good to look overseas. Just go on the internet, search, ask people that are in different industries as well. Don't just stay within your own industry, because maybe they have different knowledge that you can actually adapt to your knowledge that you need, or the information that you need. So ask as much as you can. Don't be afraid to discuss your shortcomings, because that's another thing. We don't like to discuss our shortcomings. We don't like to discuss our money. We don't like to discuss our career aspirations. So let's discuss
that. Thank you so much for that. And I think one of the final couple questions. How do we encourage change? So what should we be doing within the workplace to really tackle the issues we're facing?
One thing I will say is that we need to understand that everybody has their own mindset and they all think differently. We're not all the same. And so unless you make a conscious decision to build relationships, you won't be able to understand fully what somebody is thinking and why they do what they do. So I would definitely say, let's facilitate those conversations. It doesn't have to be argumentative, but it's for you to gauge how the person is thinking. Let's create effective relationships with the different races, because when you do have those relationships, it's easier to have those conversations. When you haven't got a relationship with someone, you can't just randomly come up and say, oh, what do you think about racism? I mean, it sounds a bit weird, So let's try and make those relationships, make those starts, those starter points. I will say also, if you feel that there is lack of diversity, there's lack of initiatives to bridge the gap, have those conversations. Find a HR advisor, have a conversation with a HR advisor. If you're very close to your manager, have that conversation with your manager. They might even say, oh, so what do you think? What do you think that we should do? They will actually throw it back at you. So before you actually start that conversation, just make sure you've done your research, because a lot of times they will throw it back at you and ask you, what is the method that you want us to take, or what is the approach that you want us to take? But don't be scared to open up and say something. Don't be scared to introduce something new. You're there to also help improve. And this is one thing I said in the beginning, that I've always been the one black girl. So I've always said that I need to educate them on how to behave with my next sister or next brother. Okay. So it is our duty, it is your duty, that if you are in an organization that hasn't got a lot of diversity, to spark those conversations and also suggest ways to bridge that gap. So I think make those relationships and then also approach the situation at hand.
Definitely.
The right way.
And it just brings to mind a quote that I read recently on social media, which I think it says, it's not enough to just not be racist. You have to be anti-racist as well. And I think it just calls on all professions to ensure there's enough education and training given to their employees as well, and ensure that everyone is just being self-aware. At the end of the day, like, we're all adults, we should be able to know what is racist and what isn't. And if you don't know, then there's so much information online. Like, ignorance is not a good enough excuse anymore. You just have to, we need to make those reflections and make sure that any unconscious bias that we do have right now is eliminated, because that can just very easily change into discrimination. So there's just one last question I want to ask you as well, Trudy. What programs are available for people from BAME backgrounds, just to ensure that we find ourselves in the right places?
So like I said, it really depends on the organization, but I know that institutions like STO, they are very undergraduate and graduate driven. They actually look after BAME students, so they literally talk to all organizations all over the UK, and they facilitate like training sessions, CV writing, interview preparation. They do a lot of things to prepare us BAME students or graduates for their first interview, for their first program or internship, whatever that they're going into. SEO is really good, so you can sign up to them. They are London based, but they have so many resources. There's loads of other organizations like that as well. And then just within normal organizations, they also have a diversity team that do campaigns, and they, as I said, they deliberately go out there to find BAME candidates. They go out there to find candidates that are not the norm, that are not the, that are not the traditional employees. So there are diversity teams and diversity departments within different organizations. So it's really about you doing your research. As I always said, you have to do your research. When you do your research, you will find so many organizations that are helping people to get into the right organization with all the preparation that they need.
Amazing. Yeah, it's so important. Like, from everything that we've discussed today, as you can tell, there's a lot more work to do and a lot more change is needed. But it's so important that we just start closing these gaps and get our education, get our knowledge, take action and support organizations who are already here fighting to make a difference for us. All those links and resources will be in the description box below. But I just want to say a massive thank you to Trudy for joining me in this video. This was my first live stream. I feel like I've had an amazing guest to join me on it.
Thank you for having me. This was really, really nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, guys, we will be filming another video, but we will catch you guys later. Bye.